The Devil's Backbone rises from the Missouri landscape like a scar that never quite healed. Locals mention it with a blend of fear and respect, as if just speaking its name could stir something that's been lying dormant beneath the ridge. The twisting trails and sharp limestone cliffs have ensnared more than their share of the curious and the reckless. Some folks claim the area is cursed, others think it's something even darker, haunted by the whispers of bloodshed and betrayal that trace back to the Civil War. When Thomas Granger, a young journalist eager to uncover forgotten tales, arrives in the nearby town of Marrow Creek, he's simply on the hunt for a story. But the Backbone has its own narratives, etched in stone, murmured through the trees, and absorbed into the earth. As Thomas delves deeper, he realizes that the reality behind the ridge's sinister reputation is far more chilling than any old legend. Because some stories don't just fade away, they linger. And the devil always comes to collect. Chapter 1, The Ridge Whispers. Thomas Granger rolled into Marrow Creek just as the sun was sinking behind the hills, casting long shadows over the cracked pavement. The town was quaint, with its streets almost deserted, save for a few weathered locals who eyed him with a mix of curiosity and caution. Thomas had heard the tales, the mysterious disappearances, the strange lights flickering over the ridge, and the whispers of something ancient and restless lurking in the Devil's Backbone. As a journalist on the hunt for forgotten stories, he was determined to uncover the truth, but even now, the silence felt thick, as if the very air was holding on to a secret. At the local diner, Thomas struck up a conversation with a bartender who kept glancing nervously at the window. "You really don't want to wander near the Backbone after dark," the man cautioned. "They say it listens. Some folks believe it takes what it wants." Thomas nodded, his notebook poised and ready, but the tension in the room was palpable. The ridge loomed ominously beyond the town, a jagged silhouette against the sky, almost as if it were breathing a silent warning. As night descended, the wind rustled through the trees, carrying faint voices, whispers that hinted at stories buried deep within the earth, just waiting for someone brave enough to hear them. Chapter 2, Hollow Footsteps. The following morning, Thomas set off toward the Devil's Backbone, navigating a narrow dirt road lined with towering oaks and whispering pines. The forest felt alive, shadows dancing with each step he took. As he reached the edge of town, he encountered Mrs. Hale, an elderly woman who had spent her entire life near the ridge. Her eyes, though clouded, sparkled with a sharpness that hinted at untold stories Thomas could sense but hadn't yet heard. "They say the mine up there was abandoned after men disappeared without a trace," she murmured. "No one dares to go back. Strange sounds drift down from the cliffs at night, like whispers or footsteps, but nothing's ever found." Thomas quickly scribbled down her words, his curiosity intensifying. He ventured deeper into the woods, where old mining carts lay rusted and half-buried in the underbrush. The ground beneath his boots felt strangely hollow, as if something had carved out the earth itself. A sudden chill swept through the air, and in the distance, he caught the faint echo of a footfall that made him stop in his tracks. But there was no one there, just the ridge, holding its secrets close, waiting. Chapter 3, Blood on the Limestone. In a dusty nook of the town's quaint little library, Thomas stumbled upon a leather-bound diary, its pages tinged with the yellow of age. The author, a Civil War deserter named Samuel Whitaker, had tucked away his story within these delicate leaves. Samuel's writings were filled with fear and regret, but what sent chills down Thomas's spine were his tales of the ridge, of shadows that moved with purpose and voices that lured men into the darkness. One entry recounted a night when the limestone cliffs seemed to glow red, as if they were soaked in blood. Samuel described a figure, something between man and beast, lurking among the trees. His words quivered with terror as he begged for forgiveness from the spirits he believed haunted the land. Thomas ran his fingers over the fading ink, realizing that the ridge's ominous history was far from a recent phenomenon, it was a story deeply rooted in the past. The diary concluded with a stark warning. The past wouldn't stay buried, and those who dared to uncover the truth might find themselves woven into the very fabric of the tale. Outside, the wind carried a haunting, mournful howl, as if the ridge itself was whispering about Samuel's fate. Chapter 4, the mark of the devil. As the days rolled on, Thomas began to sense something unsettling around the ridge. Animals that usually roamed near the forest's edge seemed to vanish without a trace, and local farmers were reporting odd symbols carved into the tree bark, twisted shapes that curled and flickered like flames. At night, strange lights danced over the cliffs, moving like restless spirits. One evening, while strolling along the ridge, Thomas stumbled upon a fresh set of footprints encircling an ancient oak. The prints were far too large and oddly shaped to belong to any creature he knew. Not far off, he noticed a charred symbol burned into the limestone, glowing softly in the moonlight. The air felt heavy, thick with the scent of sulfur and ash. It was as if the ridge had come alive, watching and waiting. Thomas's heart raced as distant whispers rustled through the trees, beckoning him further into the shadows. The town's warnings echoed in his mind. The Devil's Backbone was no ordinary place. It carried the mark of something dark, something that craved the souls of those brave enough to seek its secrets. Chapter 5: The Bone Pit. As Thomas pushed through a narrow crevice cloaked in thick vines, he stumbled upon an entrance carved into the limestone ridge, a cavern that seemed to be swallowed by darkness. His flashlight cut through the gloom, revealing a winding passage that delved deep into the earth. With each step he took, the air turned colder and heavier, thick with the earthy scent of soil and something far more ancient. At the heart of the cavern, Thomas was met with a chilling sight, a pit brimming with bones, cracked skulls, and rusted relics strewn about like forgotten offerings. The walls bore crude symbols, worn by the passage of time yet still unmistakably ritualistic. From the shadows, echoes of the past seemed to whisper, sharing tales of sacrifice and suffering. He quickly understood that this was no ordinary cave. It was a site of dark rituals, a place where something ancient had been both worshipped and feared. The deeper Thomas went, the more the heavy silence wrapped around him like a shroud. The ridge had kept its secrets hidden for so long, but now those secrets were stirring, and Thomas found himself ensnared in their grasp. Chapter 6: The Pact Uncovered. In a weathered cabin on the outskirts of town, Thomas found himself face to face with Elias, a reclusive hermit renowned for his deep understanding of local legends. The man's eyes sparkled with a haunted wisdom as he shared a chilling revelation: the founders of Marrow Creek had struck a sinister deal with the entity lurking in the Devil's Backbone. Long ago, Elias murmured, the land was untamed and merciless. The settlers, desperate for survival, made a bargain with something beyond our world to claim the ridge and prosper. But remember, every gift comes with a cost. As Thomas listened, Elias spun tales of prosperity that were bought with blood and terror. Crops thrived, and the town expanded, yet men disappeared, animals perished, and the ridge demanded its due. The hermit's voice trembled, the pact was sealed in blood at that bone pit. Now the debt is due, and the ridge craves new souls. Thomas felt the weight of history pressing down on him, the invisible chains that tethered the town to a fate darker than any story. The Devil's Backbone was more than just a ridge, it was a promise etched in shadow and bone. Chapter 7: Hell's Summit. Under the eerie glow of the rising moon, Thomas made his way to the peak of the Devil's Backbone. The air felt heavy with tension, charged by the unseen forces that had lingered in this place for ages. Shadows flickered among the sharp rocks as the wind howled, echoing like a chorus of lost souls. At the top, Thomas faced the dark presence that Elias had warned him about. A figure emerged from the darkness, neither fully human nor beast, its eyes glowing with an ancient malevolence. The ground shook beneath Thomas's feet as the entity reached out, whispering chilling promises and threats that sent shivers down his spine. Gathering every bit of courage he had, Thomas stood his ground. He called out the names of the lost, the forgotten sacrifices, shattering the silence that had held the ridge captive for so long. The creature let out a piercing shriek, a sound that ripped through the night, before disappearing into the shadows. As the first light of dawn kissed the ridge, the heavy burden lifted, but Thomas understood that this victory was delicate. The Devil's Backbone had been confronted, yet the darkness was patient, and it always awaited the next reckoning. Chapter 8: Smoke over Missouri. The town of Marrow Creek woke up to an unusual stillness, one that felt different from any other morning. The ridge loomed quietly, its sharp outline softened by a veil of morning mist. Thomas made his way back from the summit, his face pale yet resolute, carrying tales that demanded to be heard. The dark pact, the lost souls, and his encounter with the shadow had etched a lasting impression on the town's story. Even though the immediate danger had subsided, an uneasy energy hung in the air. The ground beneath the devil's backbone seemed to exhale softly, as if it were waiting for something. The townsfolk moved with caution, their whispers taking the place of open conversations, fully aware that some secrets were better left undisturbed. As Thomas gathered his notes and got ready to leave, the ridge's quiet presence lingered in his mind. The devil's backbone was more than just land. It was a living testament to sacrifice and darkness, a reminder that some shadows never truly disappear but instead lie in wait. Smoke spiraled from far-off chimneys, blending with the crisp Missouri air, while the ridge stood watch, silent and eternal. The devil's backbone is more than just a landmark, it's a part of the landscape and the souls of those who dwell nearby, a quiet sentinel of hidden truths and lingering shadows. While the darkness has faced its challenges, it has never been completely vanquished. It resides beneath the limestone cliffs, rustles in the leaves, and weaves through the whispered stories shared across generations. Thomas departed Marrow Creek with a profound realization: some tales are meant to endure, but they're not always meant to be fully revealed. The ridge keeps its secrets close, serving as a reminder that the past is never entirely erased. It waits, ever patient and observant, ready to reclaim what was promised long ago. In Missouri, the Devil's Backbone stands as more than just a location, it's a cautionary tale etched in stone and shadow, where every footstep resonates with the legacy of those who walked before.